join us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Kelly, if you take roll, please.
Patricia Carconi.
Here.
Jim Chuck.
Here.
Michael Kuplity.
Here.
Bronco Mitkowski.
Here.
Kurt Reckey.
Here.
Carl Town.
Here.
Haven't heard from Ron, so
Motion to excuse Commissioner Pennington.
I'll support.
yeah.
I'm going to stop for a minute.
Sure.
So Ron's missed quite a bit, and, you know, we haven't heard from him, and we keep on excusing, and I like Ron, there's nothing against him, but I'd like to have a whole forum. So I'm myself, I'm not going to approve excusing him.
Understand. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Oppose?
Aye.
Approval of tonight's agenda. Brian, any changes?
No changes.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
Support.
Motion and support. All those in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Very good. Approval of consent agenda, April 13th, 2026. Minutes. We have a motion.
I make a motion to approve if there's no changes.
Support.
Motion support. All those in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? All right, very good. All right, comments from the public. Anyone would like to come up? Just a reminder, this is comments, not conversation.
Oh
We're
no,
going
be
to try
fast.
to keep a 3-minute time.
Fast
on
and
this,
Furious.
please.
Frank Tartaglia, Martindale Road. I just wanted to bring to the attention to this forum. I did receive some feedback from various regulatory agencies regarding the New Hudson Drain proposal that Atwell Walbridge presented. In their previous documentation, they indicated that they had some challenges with timelines, but so what I did was I proposed a certain timeline. I forwarded it to the appropriate authorities, and I did get a response from EGLE, Mr. John Jones, who's with EGLE and the Assistance Center concerning the proposed New Hudson Drain clean-out project. EGLE confirmed that they did receive the application on April 28th, 2026 from the Oakland County Water Resource Commission for the property owner of the New Hudson Drain. EGLE further confirmed that the OCWRC has the authorized Atwell engineers to submit and process the permitted application on its behalf. At this time, EGLE indicated that the formal review process has not yet begun. Therefore, no project-specific determinations or findings are currently available. The EGLE will review the project under authority of Part 301, Inland Lakes and Streams, Part 303, Wetlands Protections, and Part 31, Water Resource Protections, which are floodplains. They'll also review and will evaluate whether the proposed project minimizes impacts to Michigan's aquatic resources and protects the public trust associated with those resources. EGLE is allotted 30 days from April 28th submittal date to determine whether the application is administratively complete. Complete means that the applicant has submitted all required plans, studies, fees, supporting documentation, and related materials necessary for EGLE to initiate a formal review. So the estimated completeness review date is approximately June 2, 2026. Once the application is deemed complete, EGLE will then issue a formal public notification to state and local agencies, adjacent property owners, local municipalities, and relevant divisions of the Department of Natural Resources, including Fisheries and Wildlife. Following that 20-day public comment period, EGLE will review all submitted comments before issuing a permit. This estimated period will conclude around June 30th, 2026. EGLE will then issue permit decisions within 90 days of the April 28th, 2026 application submittal date, unless the applicant requests and EGLE grants an extension to obtain additional information. Given the ongoing concerns, I encourage that the community continue to remain vigilant by monitoring the Milford Road to Martindale Road portion of the proposed drain cleanout activities to help ensure that no unauthorized work occurs during this time frame prior to any issuance of all required permits or approvals. It is important to remember that Atwell has previously conducted activities on airport property along the Milford Road before fully satisfying applicable regulatory obligations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Kelly Sullivan, New Hudson. The Project Flex document folder has had some interesting additions in recent days that I'm sure the Planning Commission is studying very carefully. After reading the recent McKenna review letter, I was dismayed to learn that, first, each building's height has increased by 2 feet. The square footage has increased over 12,000 square feet. There's a drastic increase in the number of trees being removed from the property. The latest version of the lighting plan will put the nearby Coca-Cola facility to shame. Why does the campus need an increase of 350 lighting fixtures far exceeding the allowable foot candles? Thank you to Brian Kesey for providing timelines of the changes made to the site plans over time. The tables made his document easy to follow and understand the planning concerns still evident with this project. The 2 requirements made by the Planning Commission in September 25 are so far from satisfactory that it's laughable. An energy audit was requested. Veris and Walbridge have punted concerns about energy use to the MPSC, claiming that this is beyond the capability of Veris to address. If we are counting on the MPSC to act on the side of Lyon Township residents in any query brought before them, heaven help us. The sound study provided by Kimley Horn has been evaluated by outside experts numerous times. The latest review states that the current study does not provide sufficient basis to conclude that the proposed development will comply with applicable noise requirements or avoid creating a noise disturbance as defined by the Township Ordinance. And this document was submitted before McKenna's letter, stating that the Kimley Horn study doesn't account for noise from pump houses, e-houses, substation noise, or the hum from the 54 electrical towers that suddenly appeared in the last site plan. Veris and Walbridge have had 8 months to get their act together. It's time for the Planning Commission to deny their application.
Hello, my name is Stephanie, and tonight I want to compare the 2 letters that were released today from McKenna and CES and how they compare when read against the record of this Commission's September 28th, 2025 approval. 3 times that night, by Mr. Piscini, Ms. Poyer, and Mr. Ackerman, this Commission was told no variances are being requested. The building height was stated on the record as 29 feet, generators were not envisioned, and the noise study requirements would be met. But McKenna's review documents with the plans, what the plans actually show now. The building is now 5 feet taller than the representative, putting the overall height at 48 feet. McKenna has twice concluded this requires a site plan amendment back to this Commission, and that question belongs in front of this body, not resolved administratively. Maximum lighting is 14.6 foot candles, nearly 5 times the ordinance's height recommended level, and it increased between submissions after McKenna flagged it the first time. And the Township's own independent reviewer on the sound study concluded in March that the Kimley Horn study should not be relied upon for approval. But the biggest thing is the Metro Engineering Solutions report now reveals 18 to 36 new 120 kilovolt transmission towers with easements of 100 to 150 feet wide through the South Hill Business Park site parcels, which were never disclosed to this Commission in September. McKenna concluded these require site plan and special land use review as essential services, but the Article 3 definition requires that essential services be provided by public or quasi-public utilities for the general public welfare and explicitly excludes commercial activities. Veris is a private company, and this infrastructure serves one commercial user. Under item J of the permitted uses table, electric transformer stations are listed as permitted use only for public utility or municipal service buildings, public, not private commercial. So the Township's attorney should provide a formal written opinion on whether this infrastructure has any valid use reclassification in I-1 or I-2 zoning before any further appeals or approvals proceed, because if the infrastructure required to power this project cannot be lawfully sited within the zoning district, the project's fundamental viability in this location should be reconsidered. CES suggests to bury the lines, but that doesn't really solve the zoning problem. So just asking for that to be looked at. McKenna has required a full tree survey to validate the reclassification of the trees. Walbridge is actively clearing trees on the site under the drain construction permits, so a survey can't document what's already gone. So I kindly ask this commission to condition further review and halt all tree clearing on site within the Project Flex footprint until the survey can be completed and validated by the township. And I'd ask the building official to confirm whether the current clearing exceeds the scope of the drain permits. So the question, just to wrap up, if these plans have been submitted to you guys on September 8th with taller buildings, transmission towers with no clear zoning classification, a detention basin that has now been rejected by the Aviation Board, and an insufficient noise model, would this commission have approved it unanimously with no public hearing? The applicant told you that there were no variances requested, and I think the record shows that they're answering that question for themselves. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Melissa Noble. I'm a Lyon Township resident. When I spoke previously, I raised ordinance-based concerns about noise compliance. Since then, the township's own sound engineer and reviewers have independently confirmed those same deficiencies and concluded that the application as submitted cannot demonstrate compliance. This is no longer a matter of interpretation or resident disagreement. The record shows that required information is missing, ordinance standards have not been met, binding conditions remain unsatisfied, and the project has materially changed in ways that require a formal amendment. Under township ordinances and the site plan procedures, approval cannot be granted without evidence. That evidence is still not present. Denial at this stage is not punitive. It is the procedurally correct outcome. I have also heard incorrect belief that the township must continue reviewing plan submissions simply because the project remains within a 2-year conditional approval window. Michigan law does not require that. The Michigan Zoning Enabling Act treats conditional approvals as provisional, not guaranteed. Nothing in the act requires the township to continue reviewing non-compliant submissions for the full approval period. Michigan case law supports early termination when conditions are not met. Courts have consistently upheld that when an applicant cannot or will not satisfy imposed conditions after multiple opportunities, the township may end the process before the conditional period expires, so long as the decision is supported by specific findings tied to the ordinance and the record. That is exactly the situation before you. This application was granted conditional approval based on the future submission of compliance sound study and an energy audit. The applicant accepted those conditions, and that agreement is documented in your meeting minutes. Under Michigan law, a developer who accepts conditional approval cannot later argue that those conditions were unlawful or outside the commission's authority. You do not get to accept the benefit and then disclaim the burden. The applicant's claim that the energy audit is out of scope is therefore procedurally barred. Failure to satisfy an accepted condition is non-compliance, and non-compliance warrants denial. Finally, I want to address a broader issue. Failing to deny this application, despite clear non-compliance, harms the township's credibility. Ordinances are promises to the community. If we do not enforce them when it is difficult, what precedent does that set for future applicants? The Planning Commission is not being asked to oppose development. You are being asked to uphold your ordinances, honor your conditions, and decide based on evidence. The record supports immediate denial, which is not only lawful, but necessary. No more chances, no more reviews. They can't be compliant unless they remove chillers, and then they can't work. There's no way for them to get under those sound limits. So continuing to review and give them chances is wasting township resources. Thank you for your time.
Good evening. My name is Julie Lynn Gibbons. I live in the area. I have observed over the last 8 months. First of all, I just want to say +1 to everything that's already been said. I'm not going to repeat what far smarter people have stated tonight. But I want to observe that the Dunkin' Donuts got more scrutiny about ordinances and whatnot than something that I have yet to understand what or how serves this community. As the previous speaker just mentioned, you do not owe Veris or Walbridge anything more than you have already done. We, as residents, are begging you to do what is right for our community, to do what is being asked of you by your community, and deny this permit. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Derek Zell. I live in Lyon Township. I would like to applaud the ladies that delivered their opinions before me. Their opinions were well researched and delivered. My opinion is purely delivered and developed on firsthand experiences in dealing with data centers. For the last 20 years, I've worked for the three of the 10 largest e-commerce companies in the United States. Those jobs have allowed me firsthand on-site knowledge and insight into what data centers actually are. In every single one of these cases, these data centers were surrounded by warehouses, heavy industry on purpose to hide their noise. I can't imagine what having one in my backyard would be like. I would like to call out that the new site review letter and the review of the sound study be enough grounds to bring Project Flex back to the Planning Commission agenda to give your neighbors and constituents an opportunity to voice their opinions and concerns. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Jeremy Welling. I'm a resident, live spitting distance from Continental Aluminum. Today I spent a good portion of the day using a day off finishing improvements on our house, which we are intending to list to sell, because we cannot remain here pending this decision because of the devastation that would befall our home value. So your planning commission for Lyon Township, there's been plenty of evidence stated here. They've done a great job, and it's over and over again, people communicating to the board and to the town leadership how devastating this will be. I'm here to tell you, we are not staying to find out. We cannot afford to. I have spent 30 years working in IT. I've lit 4 data centers. Ford's 2 data centers in Flat Rock, Michigan and Dearborn. I know firsthand what a brand new data center sounds like. And if you have not toured those facilities, if you have not been in and around those facilities, they're horrible. They're absolutely stunningly horrible. They are not meant to be in residential areas. And what you granted preliminary approval for is putting one smack in the middle of residences. Like spitting distance from my child's school, the cancer rates, the deafening sound, the fire hazard. Did you see the fires that broke out in the Netherlands last week, taking down IBM? It's not back up. And if this was Project Flex, you'd have an unput-outable lithium fire. Like that's not even something I've ever even seen or considered. Lithium, like that much lithium in one place near a data center? That's just stunning. You'd have like a huge massive evacuation area from a huge toxic lithium fire if that same fire took place in any of the power zones for this Project Flex. And as a planning commission, like, it's stunningly, the zoning rules, like light industrial for this kind of a facility, or even heavy industrial, this is devastating industrial. And it doesn't belong anywhere near where they're looking at putting it, and they're already clearing for it, as mentioned by the previous speaker. And me and my wife, we can't stay. We're hesitating, trying to tell my 10-year-old and my 7-year-old they're going to have to say bye to their friends. Our decision is made. Well, what I will come back for, and we will come back, is to anyone on this commission, anyone in town leadership, go Google people being recalled or removed or voted out, because that's what you'll deserve if this goes through. There's more than enough evidence to say no and reject it. This devastation is what you're looking at.
Thank you.
Amy, you guys know me. You've been granted an opportunity to correct a wrong. The work that has been done by the residents of this community has been amazing, and the job that you all should have done before accepting this plan. An inexperienced company presented a site plan and then presented a second one, littered with incomplete information and information that they don't feel we need to have. It's a trust me situation. Well, we don't trust them. This is a conditional site plan, and you can change this, and you can stop this. Every day, more and more comes out about how bad these data centers are. I don't even think Saline is a completely done deal, because if it was, DTE wouldn't be blackmailing us right now and telling us that if it gets completed, they'll back off on 2 years of rate increases. Yeah, right. We all want to get back to the lives that we chose when we picked Lyon Township to live in. A rural town with pumpkin patches, cider mills, nature walks, and fields of corn. We're not asking for you to stop developing. All we're asking for is you put the industrial where industrial belongs. If Walbridge wants to be a good neighbor, give us that back half. We'll turn it into a park for the trailhead that we don't have any place to park for. Instead of inserting it into our residential areas, we need this to stop, and you guys can do that for us.
My name's Julianne Sleek. I'm a Lyon Township resident. I live just across the street from the proposed data center in Mill River. And when Amy spoke about a rural town, I grew up in a town without a stoplight. And when I was looking for a place to raise my family, I chose Lyon Township. I really didn't plan on speaking tonight, but what gets me is that these large companies are coming to rural areas and preying on people like you that are misinformed, and they're continuing to misinform. And it's just sad. But I think we've reached the point with what other people have said tonight that it's about time to say no. And the ball is in your court to be able to do that, and I really do hope that you are able to deny their conditional approval. Thank you.
Who else?
Good evening. My name is Jeff Barker, GEOFF-BARKER. I live in South Lyon. I've been attending these meetings really on the advice or request of a neighbor since February, and I've listened to all of the discussion. I was here for the presentations from Walbridge, DTE, and everybody else. And I guess the one thing that comes to my mind again and again is if Lyon Township is really going to reflect on the will of the people, as we've heard in all these meetings, I've not heard one person stand up and give a positive description of a potential data center. It's all been negative. It's all been negatives. You have, people that are parents talking about the impact on families, children's health, which to me is the biggest concern of anybody. I firmly believe that if this goes forward, it's nothing short of malfeasance, really, that you're taking what the will of the people is, totally ignoring that, and then moving in a different direction. I'm not a flat earth person. It's not like I don't think data centers have no value. I think they could potentially, but not in Lyon Township, not in residential areas, not where there's businesses and schools and families. I mean, it's just so offensive, I guess is the word I would use, because if you have people that say, like if this does move forward, for the commission, the township, any of the committees say, yeah, we went ahead with that. For anybody to feel good about that, I think is absolutely a lie. It's a lie. So I would really echo everybody else, and I applaud my fellow citizens for the research they've done, the efforts in getting the data, much better than I ever could. But I firmly believe that everybody's heart is in the place of not continuing forward with this data center. And I really hope that the commission and the township supports that. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Carter Sleek, and I have lived practically my entire life here. I moved when I was 3. My second earliest memory is moving in here. And I'm very proud to be from New Hudson. I always tell all my friends I'm from there, and they always ask what it is, and I explain, and I'm like, it's a lovely place. You should come visit us. We don't have that much, but it's awesome. But I don't think I would ever say that to my friends again if we ever had a data center, because they would come down the road and then all they would hear would just be the loud noises. And I also want to live my whole life here, but if a data center goes in, I would reconsider and probably end up moving to a different place and just be sad that New Hudson is changed irrevocably. Thank you for your time and have a good evening.
I wasn't going to speak either, but I'm in Mill River in New Hudson, Kathy Mitzner. I've waited 25 years for the ring road, the fourth part. Waited all these years because we've been here since '87. I would gladly give up that fourth part of the ring road to get rid of this project. I would gladly give that up. I know Wallbridge is involved in that. They're giving us whatever they're giving us towards that ring road, the fourth part. But personally, I would rather have just 3 parts of the ring road and no data center. So that's just my opinion. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
My name's Michelle Middleton. I live in Lyon Township, and I've been coming to these meetings since December and listening to what everybody's saying and coming to the planning commissions and all these meetings, and you guys are planning wonderful things with you want to put the park in behind the New Hudson Inn, and how are you going to have a park with a data center there? You want all of these wonderful things for the community. They want to have concerts and the kite festival and all this stuff going on, but you're going to have a data center there. It's dangerous. Like he was saying with the lithium fires, I don't understand how people can put in a project knowing that if it caught on fire, it cannot be put out. I live next to a fire that was a 12-alarm fire last summer. 12 alarms because Martindale was under construction. It took all day for them to get it out. And I didn't know if my house was going to burn down or not. That's scary, just a fire for a house, let alone something for a data center. Then you want to put in this loop road, the ring road, and you're allowing to have a bypass come in to drain this property so it can be developed. It's not our problem that they bought a piece of property that's wet. You're not going to let anybody else drain their property into a drain. Just because they're a big developer and they want to get it done. They have the relationship with Eagle, and they have the relationship with the Watershed Commission, and they do this all the time. Well, that's not right for the residents. I live on the Lion Drain. And when we had that last rainfall, where the Martindale Road is, where they put the bridge in there, the water level was crested. If you're going to drain more property, hundreds of acres of property from that wet area into that drain, it's going to flood over to all the houses. You are more worried about putting in a bypass for a supposed development than you are cleaning the drain that needs to be cleaned out before. There's trout that live in that river. There's mink that live in that river. There's all kinds of fish, ducks, everything that lives in that river. And nobody touches that. But you're worried about this data center and getting all this stuff done. They're not following protocol. They're not following the rules. They're cutting down trees. They're stacking it up. They're leaving it everywhere else. You hear what they do all over the state of Michigan, and it's not positive. And how many times does someone get to come before the Planning Commission before you turn them down? I've been in the business world. My mom and I have had businesses, and we come before the Planning Commission to get everything done. How many times do you get before you say no and you're turned down and go back to the drawing board? I've been there. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. No one else?
Trying to pull up my documents really quick. A lot has been said tonight, and I hope you take it to heart, especially when we're considering Project Flex possibly coming back to the Planning Commission. I think that is, in good faith, the best effort to make. One thing, in addition to the letters that CES put out today, and McKenna as well, highlighting lots of the issues that would require major changes, which we would want to see come back to the Planning Commission, have them start again, and then put this actually under a special land use. That would be the most appropriate route. I just want to highlight again, because I want to make sure that it's said, we are looking, in the latest site plan, they are looking to add, I had to get my calculator out, 56 power lines, 56 transmission towers, 54. 54 towers, which is a major infrastructure that's outside of the scope of Project Flex. This is infrastructure that has to go in to support Project Flex and an activity happening in South Hill Business Park and South Hill Business Park West. And so knowing that, that's going to be incredibly disruptive. That's not just on the Walbridge property. That's everything that is along the Walbridge property that's disruptive to the residents as well. Something to consider as you are thinking about thinking about, I'm trying to get my words together, I'm so sorry. No longer supporting the conditional approval of Project Flex, but denying it because they cannot meet the conditions. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? 3, 2, 1. Okay, thank you for your comments. All right, on to old business. AP 26-05, large land use, special land use standards. McKenna.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A couple things that I'd like to highlight that we've worked on over the last month relating to the large land use ordinance. We took your feedback and took the residents' feedback into account, as well as some of the letters that we received from Veris, from Walbridge, where they were appropriate. So we're considering all sources in this ordinance. There are a few things that I want to highlight in terms of changes, and then I have a consideration for you to discuss on how we proceed. First, sorry, I'm just going to go through these in order. First, I have a note on the on criteria number 1 under section 2 of the ordinance. the sensitive use setbacks. If you recall at the last meeting, it was a new section that I put in and had not had an opportunity to research appropriate distances for setbacks from larger land uses and some protected land uses. So the table that you see up on the screen right now was just a starter, essentially, but I do have a note there. I've looked at a lot of resources and best practices, and I don't have any standards yet to add to this section. I'm struggling to find data-backed separation distances between large uses like this that go beyond what some of our building setbacks are for large buildings within the districts already, especially in the I1 and I2 districts. Our setbacks are determined based on the building height, right? We have a base setback from front property lines, side property lines, rear property lines that go up based on the height of the building. And they end up being pretty substantial setbacks. Like, for example, on the Flex project, they're required something like a little over 300 feet is the required setback from the southern property line. And they ended up closer to 400 feet in the site plan. Other model data center ordinances are using things anywhere between, I've seen as low as 100 feet in a similar setting, all the way up to about 250 feet setbacks from the internal property setback, the subject property lines. But I'm not finding a lot of separation distance from particular uses. So I don't want to throw in numbers into this table. I'm not intending to use 1 mile or 5 miles or anything like that unless I can find some data-backed distances for this section. So I think it either warrants additional research to find appropriate setbacks from these protected uses or sensitive uses, or we need to depend on the internal setbacks for these industrial properties. So that's one thing that I want to talk about and get your feedback on. The second is under number 2, which is the energy use assessment 2A. I've added a section to this. Some of the letters that we received from the attorneys of Walbridge and Veris pointed out that jurisdiction of energy consumption is with the Michigan Public Service Commission. And so one of the things that I think bears adding to this ordinance is show us proof that the MPSC has approved the use for a large land use. So one of the things that they're required to do in some of the state acts for large land uses or for data centers is to prove that they don't impact residential rates or the availability of energy. And so that's an addition that I think should be made to this ordinance. Next is item D. Under that same section, I'm asking that the applicant provide anticipated routes for electrical transmission lines and details illustrating height, location, and number of poles that will be used to support the proposed use. So that would help us avoid the situation like some of the residents noted on the second review where we receive additional information for transmission towers that are off-site infrastructure. We would know that upon the first application.
So,
yes, sir.
The review letter for the data center on the power consumption and everything, would this fit the bill on that? Because that was conditional approval on the energy audit. And we still haven't seen it. So with our new energy audit, is it sufficient enough on A, B, C, D, and E. And with it, this is kind of redundant because there's another section down farther that talks about the waves and everything else. See if I can find it.
Yeah, some of the electromagnetic interference is listed in that energy
There's two
use
sections
assessment.
that actually talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, I mean, in essence, with this MPSC comment, I'm punting to the state agency responsible for reviewing that topic, which is what we do with some of the natural resource preservation things, where we're saying if Eagle is okay with it, then we need to be okay with it, and so, or any other agency, right? Traffic, RCOC
Right.
is responsible for that, so we're treating this the same way. Show us proof that it can be supported, that the state reviewing agency is okay with it, and we'll be okay with it.
okay.
I've added some clarification under item number 5, sound and vibration assessment, 5A. Previously, I had noted that the study shall include assessments of ambient sound conditions as well as detailing vibration, tonality, infrasound, etc. I've just added at the time of application into the ambient sound conditions to clarify that we want to know what the sound levels are at the time you're applying. We want that documented so that we have a baseline for if and when the new use goes in. Next change is all the way down in item 19 under abandonment. Some of the feedback that we got noted that we had called for a ceased activity of 6 months. 6 successive months or longer would be deemed abandoned, with the note that there was a concern that we were not accounting for seasonality in any of these uses. So I've added a sentence here at the end to allow the township to consider seasonality in terms of abandonment. Obviously, that won't apply to a lot of these large land uses, but I'd like to have that flexibility built in. So that's been added. The other thing that we talked a little bit about at the last meeting, I think we got public comments, but I also had some written correspondence that came in related to the mechanical and electrical equipment when it was getting swapped out. So I've added this provision under 20A. And I'll just read it for those who can't read the board. It is long, so bear with me. For the purposes of this ordinance, replacement of mechanical and electrical equipment with equivalent equipment is considered standard maintenance and shall not constitute amendment of the site plan if the specifications for noise, energy consumption, and emissions illustrate no greater impact than the existing equipment. Replacement of equipment shall be reviewed through the building department's standard permit review process. If through the course of the permit review, the building official or their designee determine that there will be greater impact to noise, energy consumption, or emissions, the replacement shall be considered an amendment of the site plan. So I think that covers our concerns from the last meeting about, well, how do we treat mechanicals? How do we treat any of the cooling equipment, any of the HVAC, any of the fans, any of that infrastructure? The last change that was added to the draft in front of you this evening is the section 4 of the ordinance. We did receive some questions from a resident about the provision in the ordinance that allows the Planning Commission to consider a land use not cited by name in the industrial, the I-1 and the I-2 districts. So we have this whole list of permitted and special land uses in the I-1 and I-2, And today in the ordinance, we have a provision that says if there's something that's not listed within that list and you can't find it anywhere else in the ordinance, the Planning Commission can be petitioned to consider whether a use is allowable in I-1 and I-2. So that exists today. The concern was we wanted some clarification that if the Planning Commission is asked to review one of those uses not cited by name, how do we signal or how do we trigger these large land use review standards for a large land use? So this last section is aiming to clarify that anything that's considered by the Planning Commission as a use not cited by name, it's still subject to all of these large land use standards if the size or intensity of that use applies. So basically, I'm going to head back up to the top. If a use not cited by name occupies over 100,000 square feet, if it uses more than 40 employees per acre, if it generates more than 100 truck trips per day, it would have to comply with all of the standards in this ordinance. Okay. Those are the changes that we've made this evening. One of the things that we have that I think is prudent for our next review is if you're comfortable with this direction, I'm getting to a point where it's just smaller iterative changes to this ordinance. I would like to send this formally to Deb's office to review, go over, comment, make sure that we are on the right track from a legal perspective, which is something that we typically do with any ordinance amendment anyways. And then we would bring back any changes that we need to make to an additional meeting for the Planning Commission. That's all I have for you. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
Yeah, I've got a few.
Start us off.
Let's start with
Carl.
I'm going to skip around, even though I've got them written down in order, because you've covered a couple of them. The CRP, the Compliant Resolution Plan, we really don't have a time frame on there. I think it should be within 24 hours. Is that always gonna, we should be notified. Their site plan person on site should be able to respond to us within 24 hours. Now going forward, I think they should actually even have a plan within that 24 hours, but I would give them, at least it's reported. This water break, for example, in Monroe County,
Orion. Yeah.
The fire department was ready. They started moving seniors from their buildings into Oakland County where they had water. And if they have the contingency plan set up, there's no reason why they can't respond to that within 24 hours. So I think we should put a number on it.
Okay, that can go under 18E. I'll work that in. Thank you.
And of course, we've got no storage tanks, which is perfect. I'm going to stop right now. Somebody else got a question because I've got a lot of notes. I want to make sure I cross out the ones we talked about. So if somebody else can.
Sure. I've got a question for Deborah.
Oh, sure.
Under the decommissioning plan, and I'll just speak in general question, but I'll use Project Flex as an example. We have, if the project ends, what happens if the project begins and they run out of money before the project is finished?
Well, you'd have an abandonment then too.
That would be covered?
The idea of the decommissioning bond is for demolition, of an abandoned structure. So if you never finished it.
So at any stage?
Well, yeah. That's the concept. At that point, it's dangerous. You can't leave it in that condition, and that's what the bond is supposed to address.
Okay. All right.
So, it just depends on when that would occur too, how significant it was. But the foundations, or was there more built than that, or what you're dealing with. But typically, the decommissioning bond is to take it out. And if it's abandoned, and that should trigger the bond. Obviously, we look at any bonds that are required to make sure the contingencies are covered too, before we accept them on any kind of project.
Right. That would be for the business. It wouldn't, in this case, be Wallbridge. They wouldn't be involved in that.
It'd be for the building. We're just looking at the structure, not necessarily concerned with who owns what.
Right.
You really can't be at that point. You're abating a nuisance,
right,
and eradicating a nuisance. So.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have one for you as well. With Brian's addition for the energy and the MPSC, if we follow their approval guidelines, does that tie our hands to still disagree with it? If we add this in there?
Well, if you disagree with it, we shouldn't wait until they've approved it. We should be attending the hearings or whatever at the MPSC, right? And noting our objections before it ever gets approved. But, what's written here now, let me scroll down to it.
It's on page 3. The middle bottom. It's right under the little chart you made.
Oh, I went down too far. Well, you're saying that they need to give you proof of the approval. And if they do that, they've complied with this section of this ordinance. So, yeah, if we're taking issue with what their criteria are for the approval and things like that, the place to argue that is at the MPSC, to try to argue against approval. For whatever reasons, But yes, all they would be required to do here is get the MPSC's approval and submit it to us as a requirement.
Bronco, can I ask what the concern is so that Deb and I can go back and fine tune this as long as we understand?
I think my concern would be the MPSC might not care about the nitty gritty part of the development. If they say, oh, we're going to do a DTE substation and that'll meet their energy needs, they might just say, okay, cool, but maybe it just doesn't fit in how we want to do something here. Like in the instance of the data center, or the other energy, the extra poles they're trying to put in and things of that nature. I don't want to tie our hands necessarily, because if they say it's a green light, now we just have to say okay.
Well, then we should add things to this. If say we go to the MPSC because we disagree, but they disagree with us and grant the approval. If you want something else in there, we need to add it.
Are you done?
That's what I have.
I have a question for you, Debbie, also.
Okay.
And you're busy tonight.
Sorry. The township requires cash bonds. So I don't know if that needs to be in here and spelled out, but we've been taking cash bonds for quite some time. In that downturn in 2010 when banks, everything walked away from their property.
Yeah, that's for construction,
so,
right?
Yes.
And that would still apply to this
Okay.
project.
I'm just, because those would be big
decommissioning
cash
is something
bonds.
totally separate.
I wouldn't want them to say we can't afford it or, you know, try to
Yeah.
alleviate from that. Okay, that's my,
Yeah, and I have no idea what the cost of a decommissioning bond is for something like that. It's gonna be,
it would have to be large. That's why I'm saying we
Very
require
significant.
cash bonds.
well, because
So-
there's no end to it either.
Right.
You know, the bonding companies gotta insure against that. I mean, you know, they're gonna carry that risk for a very long time potentially. So,
No, my colleague did a great job. That was on my mind too, so nice job on that, Bronco. The proof, you know, we, to your point, we can't tie our hands. We have to contest it before we get to the final stage, so. I had the same concerns, so I won't go through it. I won't be redundant. Thank you.
well, another thought that we could think about, or you can think about, is, you know, requiring certain things that you want to see in an energy audit. I know, you know, I mean, and having that be an independent consultant or
Yeah.
entity,
Firm entity.
selected by the township, but funded, you know, so the taxpayers aren't paying for that, you know, funded by the project.
Right.
You know, that be a correct, and that's part of it too, not just the approval of the MPSC, but first the approval of an independent consultant selected by the township before it even gets to the MPSC. So that helps us too there if we want to contest anything.
Good point. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. How, if we don't know what we don't know, like the towers, the additional towers, how would we know on a project coming through, how are you gonna capture every detail that could be a huge problem on something that's either really large or, how can you capture, how, and would that be able to stop the project? If we,
You'd be able to table something where there's unknowns. I mean, obviously now everybody's learned from experience on this, right? And any unknowns or any questions or whatever, anything that's coming down, you know, that's different, you're gonna wanna table it, and because it'll be a special land use, you can ask a lot of things and require a lot of information before you ever get to a point where you're gonna make a decision.
all right, that's good.
Yeah, and then as things come up, like through the final site plan process, through the detailed engineering process, and even we've seen it sometimes getting all the way to the building department for permit, things pop up that were either not anticipated or, you know, what a developer may think is a minor change gets flagged and ends up coming back. Right, we've had things that are in the middle of detailed engineering or at the end of detailed engineering come back to the planning commission because they trigger something bigger on the site. So there are checks all the way along the way through construction that could send a project back today, even outside of this ordinance, just normal course of business as we operate today.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, if I may on that point, one important thing that's in here is that there will be no minor changes made administratively.
Right.
They're all coming back.
Correct.
So that will not only, obviously, you'll be making decisions on those proposed changes, but I think it'll be a deterrent to coming back to, and you're gonna see more fully developed plans because people won't want to have to come back for any changes. So you won't see things as preliminary as maybe they were.
I agree, and so one of mine also to throw in there was the water assessment. A lot of times before it was in the engineering, but I think on every project, not just this, we need to look at a water assessment. I've always thought that. A lot of times I'll use the word, not fluff it off, but it comes in, you know, plans approved and what happens for everybody that's out there. If it's not approved, then they have to come back to us anyways, if there's changes. But theoretically speaking, I mean, without knowing the procedure, it'd probably be better if we actually had the assessment on every project. Is my point. And then there was one other thing on here that gives in the special land use, it gives the planning commission or the township board the ability to waive or modify requirements. I mean, it almost sounds like it's going to be done administratively again. And I don't know if that's during a special land use, if we want to do that. To be able to waive in one case and not in the other.
Well, the way it says is if they're not applicable to the proposed use, when in doubt, you would never waive them, right? You would have to be convinced it's not applicable to this particular.
But can somebody beat around that word usage and just say?
Well, it would be up to the planning commission to decide it wasn't applicable.
Yeah, I don't even like it in there. But
yeah, these are intended to be very rigorous requirements.
And that's not.
And they're very reasonable for this, you know, a very intensive use. I'm not saying they're unreasonable, but I think that verbiage gives you a little bit of latitude if they're just totally not where you can't even make a rational argument that this requirement would be applicable to this. I don't know. You know, I mean, somebody would have to make that case to you, obviously.
Okay.
It'd be their burden to persuade you it's totally not applicable to us. And, you know, I can't imagine what that would be, but it
so you're okay
could
with
happen.
The word use?
I'm okay with it because it's this body and the township board that would have to be totally convinced that's not applicable.
Yeah.
And I think the presumption would be that it is applicable unless they prove otherwise.
Mm-hmm. So if the applicant were to have to come back, would they see us and the board, or would it would stay at the commission?
They'd see both of you again.
Under special land use.
Because it's all special land use.
Board.
Yeah, when you modify a site plan that is approved as part of the special land use, you're modifying the special land use, so you're going to see both. And hold the public hearing again.
No.
Brian, on commercial projects, is there a limit for the industrial water hookups, the high capacity? I think most use 12 inches or more. This might be a CES.
Yeah, we'll have to ask CES on.
CES?
Yep.
Okay.
But can you finish your question? I can make sure she gets it.
Well, the question is, I think 12 inches. Well, homeowner, it's 1 inch, I believe. But commercial's up to 12 inch. So that's a lot of water pressure. And it could go beyond that. And I just wondered where we were in the ordinance on that.
Okay.
Or if it's unlimited.
I assume that it's already in the engineering standards, but I will confirm and figure out the best way to best place to put that.
Any other comments? Questions?
Not to this.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
I have one. I wasn't here last month. Ann was here for me, but so I don't know if this was discussed already. If it was, tell me. But what I'm seeing in some other communities that are drafting these right now, and they're making distinctions with the size of the data center, right? And some of them are still allowing a smaller data center as a principal use or a permitted use. And I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. We're talking about also amending to make any normal data center a special land use at the same time, right? Anything less than the scale of this?
Just the 100,000 square feet is the threshold right now.
Really? Because I don't know. I think that bears discussion here. You know, if it's 99,000 square feet, and I'm concerned that these ones that are a lesser scale, that the end around is going to be how many you can, how many smaller ones you can put there, right? And they would not meet the definition of a hyper, and they would be a permitted use. So I really think we should look at that too.
So that would be separate on the that would have to be separate than the industrial section.
If you make them all, if you make any kind of data center a special land use, you don't have the problem.
There we go. Yeah.
And right now, I think we should do that. Consider it, just because there's going to be end arounds, right?
Yeah.
Because everybody's doing these regulations that are very stringent, and I'm trying to think of all the end arounds. And
yeah, I think right now the way that I have it is multiple buildings together in a campus that exceed that 100,000 is where they trigger. But if the concern is they end up being kind of spotty and they're not congregated,
that's what I'm thinking.
Okay.
And some communities are segregating, allowing the permitted use of an accessory data center that doesn't serve third parties. How do you monitor that? I mean, you know, there's a lot of things going on like that you might want to just take a blanket approach on these things, or consider it, you know, because they're so evolving and they're so different, and really that's what special land uses are designed. So that, you know, because no two are the same a lot of times, and you can put certain conditions on them depending on what the developer's proposing. Anyway, just something to think about.
That's perfect.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Yeah, that's great.
You're welcome.
No action tonight. What's the next step?
No action tonight. If you're comfortable with it, I'll get a meeting together with Deb and we'll go over it and make sure that she's comfortable or not. Like, we want to know what they're not comfortable with, and bring you back on another draft next meeting.
Then hopefully we'll be able to
go
forward after.
I feel like we're fairly close.
Yeah.
Right. So these are details that we're working out, but the framework is here, and so, you know, if you're comfortable at the next meeting, then in theory we could set a public hearing for another meeting this summer, and get the ball moving. Okay.
Yeah, we wouldn't need an extension, which would be nice. We'll get it on the books.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I have something not related to this. Finish it.
Right. Okay. Then we're done with old business. New business.
To the chair, can we take any comment?
Shirley. And don't call me Shirley. All right.
Mark Spencer, Lyon Township resident. I'm overjoyed. I wasn't that way before. I started coming here back in December angry. And for that, any comment that I said, an ill harm, bad feeling, I do apologize. But what I'm overwhelmed with tonight is we're moving in the right direction. We have the room, it's okay. We have the room to set this next project up for conditional denial, not approval. And we're making the right moves to strengthen our town. Ryan, I am flattered and overjoyed by how much effort, concentration, and care has clearly been put into this draft language. And thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Wow. Carl, earlier today, thank you for denying what you did. I agree with your sentiment, and you took the right move. You denied the first action of the night. Thank you. That was great. You're moving in the right direction. I'm a fan. Thank you, Deborah. Those ideas, those items that you just added, I've lived in data centers that transformed from a single tenant to multi-tenants overnight.
Yeah.
And it's ugly. Great catch.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I want to cry a bit, but thank you so much, everybody, tonight. Thank you. Keep going. How do I help more? That's my question to you all. If you can't answer in the minute and a half, fine, or line. I want to help more. How?
Keep attending meetings.
Can I help clear the drain so Wallbridge doesn't have to pay for it?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay.
Send your waiters.
I got them, but seriously, want to help. Thank you all.
Frank Tartaglia. I echo the comments of the previous gentleman, and thank you all for speaking up, right? I've sent this document to the Board of Trustees, McKenna team. Thanks, Brian. And what I've heard in the past, again, is looking at timelines and such, and it appears to be a challenge from either Veris or Wallbridge or Atwell or whomever. And I'm a little concerned about some of the scope creep I heard earlier, which, rise of an existing building, a proposed building, bringing in these big giant, kilowatt lines and so on, the water consumption and so on and so forth. My position is, I think we need to bake in, during this moratorium, Brian, is that we need to bake in safeguards. I've heard some of the contingency planning, which is good. That's a safeguard. Understanding who the tenants are, or tenant, because we're all under the impression that it's Veris and or Veris, but it may be more. I believe that we should continue to get real granular and not expect some other organization like, the PUC, MPSC, whomever, like some other bureaucratic organization. We have an opportunity right now to essentially tell Wallbridge and Veris and others that if you want to come to this town, these are the rules of engagement. This is what we will tolerate, and these are the safety requirements. And oh, by the way, a building or a project of this magnitude, any kind of decommissioning and cleanup, you're looking at between $50 and $100 million. So that's a third-party bond. So forget the cash bond stuff. Okay, that's big money.
Well, that's all we take, Frank.
Well,
we're
going to have to adjust that.
That's why, yes.
I don't see Veris or Wallbridge toning up suitcases of cabbage, right? So, but anyways, I digress. Again, I think we need to look at the guardrails, and I've spoken with John and others, because really it boils down to the safety and well-being of the environment and of the community and of the people of this this community. So thank you.
Hello again. I just wanted to say that I was really, really happy when the consideration to take out the large part of large data centers was mentioned, because I think that it's better safe to be sorry with any sort of project, because if you specify a size for a certain project and they just skirt around it slightly, then it could still have about the same impact. So I just really like that concept.
I'm Talon Harvey from Apple Lane. Following up on what he just said, I would hope you think about that Wallbridge has adjacent properties, and there is a long game that they could play where they get this approved and it meets this certain size, and then right next door they buy that property, because who's going to want to buy it? And they do the same thing and they keep it under 99,000 square feet, and then they buy the next property nearby, and they keep pulling the same game. So you need to protect for the fact that they could proliferate this and use way more than we ever wanted, water and pollution and noise, because they'll treat each one, well, that's small, that's small, that's small, but they're all right next to each other. No one's going to put an apartment complex right next to this thing, so that property is sitting there. So they could be playing this add-on game where they get it approved in small bites. The other thing I was hoping that you think about is, I was looking at water usage or water pollution requirements. The state seems to have requirements that seem to protect public water. Public water systems are monitored, but my home and my whole neighborhood and many hundreds of homes nearby within 2 miles of it are not on the public water system. We're on the higher, closer to the surface aquifer. And there doesn't seem to be anybody protecting our aquifer. Where they're protecting the public water aquifer, it's being monitored, their requirement to check it, and well, there's penalties if they screw up the public water system. But I don't get to have the public water system. My neighborhood is older. Everyone was approved by the board in the township to have private wells. And if they pollute our aquifer, we're screwed. I'll have cancer. My kids will have cancer. My house will be worthless. So I would hope we can find a way to fit in that they cannot publicly pollute private well aquifers either. There isn't seem to be a law that seems to protect us, and that's what we ask you guys to consider and look for, ways to protect us. Because unless someone's going to come and bring public water to my home, what am I going to do? So that's why I wanted to ask you to look at that level, because the laws seem to say the public system. Well, I'm not on the public system, and I can't choose that. It's nothing I can do, and that was inflicted on us. So thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Stephanie. Again, just echoing everybody who thanks you guys for all the work you're putting into this. It's not unnoticed, and really appreciate all the discussion and feedback. For the setback table, the Michigan Administrative Code R324.1015 defines noise sensitive areas at the state regulatory level, and it provides an EGLE recognized framework for separation standards. And then Port Huron Township, I know I mentioned that to you last time, Brian, but Article 8 establishes special noise zones with specific numerical limits tied to land use categories. And those have both been enforceable in the state of Michigan already. So that might be somewhere we could look. The noise standards in Section 5 are adding a lot more detail for the sound study and tonal, but it all goes back to Article 20. And Article 20 doesn't recognize that. So we're going to ask them to do this sound study, but then we're comparing it against an article that isn't as rigorous. So I don't know what the criteria for approval or failure is at that point if they don't have the same inputs. So it just might be looking at Article 20 as well. And then the way I read it, Sections 10 and 12 seem to conflict each other, because 10 established the fuel storage tank standards, but then Section 12 prohibits fuel tanks entirely. And then Section 13 covers the generators. So it just seemed like there was some confusion there. So I don't know if I'm reading it wrong, but it might not be clear. I'm not a professional. But one of the other things, Section 4 is an improvement, but that's a classification determination. It still happens before the public hearing at the discretion of the Planning Commission. So I was wondering if maybe you guys, that you talked about it, maybe that determination could happen by the Planning Commission after the public hearing for the special consideration to kind of go around it. That way the public and maybe the board have weighed in, and that's all the data is there then. And then the last point I wanted to make was regarding what Deb brought up with the smaller. This week on the news, Pulte, who we are very familiar with in this township, came out. I don't know if you guys saw the news article, and said that they are going to start putting mini data centers on every house in their neighborhoods. And they're going to offer the residents flat fee Wi-Fi and cable, or Wi-Fi and electric for $150 a month if they let them put a mini data center on the side of their building, on every house in the subdivision. So when you're talking about square footage, I think looking into that and seeing if that's a real thing, they're proposing it, I think, to as an option to go forward. I'm not saying they're offering it on homes that are here, right? But that's technology that Pulte is getting involved with at big tech. And I think protecting ourselves on the small front would also be good, like kind of like Deb brought up, right? Because those are all mini data centers in everybody's back, like it looks like an air conditioning unit on the side of the house.
Stephanie, where'd you see that article at?
It was on Fox News and CNN and
Really?
yeah.
Okay.
How long ago?
I want to say it was like right after the board meeting last week, Tuesday night.
Yeah, I read a lot. And I didn't
Yeah, it only caught my eye because it was Pulte, and like I said, Pulte comes up a lot in this township. But I just again want you guys to know that meaningful progress on this moratorium is really important, and thank you guys for everything you're doing and listening. And I was trying to keep it within 3 minutes before, so sorry I couldn't make much eye contact. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Heidi. Brian, I think this is directed at you regarding the ambient sound study. And I apologize, I couldn't read the sign, or the screen, so I don't know if it was on there. But what are the parameters of the sound study? Is it day, night, weekends? Because we know some of these uses are 24/7.
I don't have any specific parameters built into the ordinance.
So wouldn't we want those on the weekends and nights?
Yeah, I think it's a good point.
Okay. And then regarding the building department review for switching equipment when it falls under maintenance, who's monitoring the building inspector that he's getting that right? That the equipment will just basically be a wash and won't generate any more sound or electrical usage or whatever? Is there somebody that he has to take that to review? Or
The mechanical and electrical and building inspectors are state certified. They're beholden to the code for the individual equipment. So they're reading the plans, understanding the plans, and it's pretty clear how I have it written here. Any changes on those items, noise, what were the other ones? Sorry. All of those items that are listed, noise emissions, there was one other one that I had in there, that they should be triggering those back.
Okay, and are there any penalties if we find down the road that they got that wrong?
Penalties for whom?
The inspector? Whoever it is that said it was okay, that it was just a wash?
Heidi, are you concerned about corruption with an inspector? Somebody actually overlooking or
just that possibly.
I mean, that's a legitimate thing. If you ask about accountability, I don't know who
sure,
the inspector.
Did
they document, Patty? Did they document the data?
Well, they're just like Brian said, they're certified, so they're the ones that read the plans and take the responsibility.
But is there any accountability for the job they do? Other than, I mean, if somebody wanted to do something illegal.
I mean, I'm likening that to a zoning administrator making an incorrect determination. I guess it comes down to administrative action. I don't know if you penalize employees for things like that. That's something we can talk about.
Yeah, we can talk about that at admin.
Mm-hmm.
There's got to be documentation one time, but if it happens the second, third time, something needs to be done.
Well, most of our inspectors are not full-time, they're contracted. But we do have a building official, and so that's who really runs our building department. And right now, he's the head of the whole building association, he's the president.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So, yes, thank you. If the long game is wait until you can get a special land use ordinance in place, thank you. I also want to call your attention to a law that was enacted in 1940 that piece of land may be eligible for. People have said for a while now that they've seen eagles. There is a national law called the Bald and Golden Eagle Protection Act. Essentially, if eagles are spotted on that property, or if a nest of an eagle is spotted on that property, Essentially, development, so nests are protected year-round, even when empty. It is prohibited to destroy, move, or obstruct a nest without permit. In terms of, there's buffer zones that prohibit clearing of trees within a certain footage of a nest. In terms of development, developers may need permits if projects such as wind, solar energy development, or residential building cannot avoid disturbing an eagle habitat. You know what's really loud? A data center. So I don't know if we have any birders out there, but if y'all want to grab some footage of what we know is flying around, because I can guarantee you that Walbridge, who likes to remind all of us they're the largest taxpayer in this township, they're not going to just sit on that property forever.
Mike, in terms of, we're focusing on the ordinance today. We're not talking about Project Flex.
Fair.
But in terms of the covering that topic, we do have under the environmental impact assessment section of the ordinance, proof of environmental compliance, which talks about water resource protection, natural resources, and environmental protection. These are at the state and federal levels, but also the Endangered Species Protection Acts under MCL, and then the other applicable laws and rules in force. So
Okay.
that's how we're addressing that in this ordinance.
Yeah, I think that could be something that we should definitely latch on to. Thank you.
I just have a question. So it reads on the agenda as large land use, special land use. So is there a moratorium on all special land uses in the township right now, or just large land uses?
Right now, it's large land uses and data centers.
Okay, because I would just like to call your attention to possible cases for the June 8th agenda. So one of them is the Design Building 3 site plan review and special land use. Yes, it's not a large land use, but in talking about data centers, the property is zoned I2 industrial, proposed 73,248 square foot standalone building to support the existing design group building for administrative, storage, and logistic purposes. I just want to make sure they're not building a mini data center. So if you could just please do your homework prior to the next meeting if this is actually going onto the agenda, I would appreciate it.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
I was just curious about with the data centers or the like special land use with the big
Special land
usage of energy and water. Should that be tied to heavy industrial instead of letting it be in the light industrial?
As this is written, it would apply to anything, I1 or I2, so the light or the heavy districts.
But I mean, should you have a zoning for anything that uses a large energy, water, or like something that has lithium that could be toxic, that it would have to be in a heavy industrial zoned area only?
We do, so the existing zoning ordinance does break it down into uses that belong in I1 versus I2. And the I2, the heavier things are
If that's heavy,
stamping
I2
plants,
is
things
heavy?
like that. Correct.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Quick question, probably for you, Brian. So I think in the draft, it was hard to see in the back, but from the draft you had something about like violations and penalties. Was that correct? Are there fees associated with that? I was trying to look up the ordinances on my phone, and it doesn't look. I wasn't sure what the costs associated would be with those violations and fees, and if it would go there or does it go somewhere else?
Just trying to find it.
No, you're good. Yeah, because the ordinances that are currently on the website, when I do like a control find for a $sign, I'm not seeing anything under that section specifically.
Yeah, I don't have it specific in this ordinance. where the zoning ordinance is not addressing it specifically, it punts back to the township violations, like the municipal civil infractions
Okay.
that we have.
Is that something
Township.
we would want to tie together in case we wanted, like, knowing that these are the large land uses are likely going to be industrial, which means the costs are a lot higher. I think about like Continental Aluminum, right? The cost to the residents if things go wrong become a lot more dangerous. I'm wondering if we want to consider making it easier to be able to point to what how much those costs and penalties are, and I think we should make them pretty high. I'm not talking like a couple $1,000s here. I'm talking a couple $100,000 easily, just because of the cost it would be to clean up any sort of big messes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you. One more?
Okay, the amendment for the old to new. So say a company's been here a few years and they want to upgrade their equipment. That is in this ordinance that says that they have to come before you guys again, and everything has to be tested, and it has to go with current
Yes.
ordinances. Okay, just want to make sure that. And if something comes up with this, if we don't change our wording on relying on the electric people to judge what's good for us, you said we'd have to argue before it got approved?
I mean, ideally, that's what you would do.
Oh. Who are those that go and argue for us?
Well,
Our law firm.
yeah, it would be, yeah, our firm, and we would obviously want technical people there testifying and
Okay.
having done studies and reports to support what we're arguing
Okay, and you
is
would be
deficient in
informed
whatever.
so that you know you have to be there and argue for us, and it doesn't get
Yeah.
approved.
Right,
Just
yeah.
clarifying that.
Yes.
Okay. And I did mention at the last meeting about new things coming out about heat islands and the amount of heat being produced, that it's creating a field over the top of these data centers that can be 3 to 6 degrees different than the surrounding. And I'm hoping that the FAA knows something about this, because that could definitely, you got airplanes flying over that one corner there, that if there's a aversion between hot and cold, that could create, might not bother a big airliner, but a small prop plane could create a problem for them. So I don't know if anybody's looked into that. And I have another silly question, but can we have a water main break here with us being on a well, a city well? Could we have a water main break?
Sure.
Does anybody?
Sure, we can.
Okay, so if that was to happen, whose water gets shut off?
Well, if you're
Is it
out-
going to be the data center's water so that we have more water in our water tower?
It's any,
Depends where it's at.
I was going to say, any of the users that are impacted by that segment of water main, regardless of.
Well, but we all draw from the same water tower, because that's what's happening up there. They're running out of water in their water tower. And so now they've asked everybody to not use their dishwashers and all that stuff to conserve the water. We all share the water towers. So if we had a major break, and I would assume it would affect a lot of people in our small town, that if they're going to suck a lot more water than we are, who's going to get shut down first?
It's just a matter of where that break would occur.
But
and any
even
users.
if that's the case, they should get shut down first, not us.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Patricia.
Just one last question about the decommissioning, because I didn't hear about it. Is there a time frame for decommissioning? In other words, if it sits there took 6 years to build, it sits there 6 years, okay, when's it just?
6 months.
The trigger
6
now is
months.
6 months.
How many? Yeah, how
They told them 6 months. Let's
Yeah.
move on.
6 months. Patricia?
Okay. All right. We had our regular meeting on Monday, May 4th, and we had unfinished business, which was the request for Township Board review and approval of the proposed temporary construction easement to Wallbridge and the permanent easement to the Water Resource Commission on Township-owned parcels for the new Hudson Road bypass, tree clearing, and future drain bypass on parcels 2103-352-002 and 2103-351 and 026. And we had much discussion from our public and the Township Board, and that request was denied. Under new business, the approval of supervisor's appointment to the Downtown Development Authority, and Tim Miner is going to be placed back on the DDA
The
board.
singing barber.
Yeah, he wanted to come back, so that appointment was made and approved. And then we had the Downtown Development Authority request for township support, proposed capital improvement projects, and I hope I say her name right, Elise, presented a nice brochure and some ideas, and the board is setting up a subcommittee to work with the DDA, and it should be with Lisa, Robert, and Chris. And so that's going to actively go on. She had some really cute stuff, and I know, Brian, you prepared some of this stuff for the DDA. So, maybe like art in the park and some other beautification that they're planning on. So, and then did you see the DIA stuff? Did you see that out front? The DIA brought replicas of famous paintings, and they're spread out all over our township, and there's one right outside here. So just notice that, it's kind of cool. And then we also had the resolution number 2026-11 to consider the approval of the amended Michigan Mutual Aid Box Alarm System Association Agreement. This is just something that we do with mutual aid. Really, it has to do with the fire department. And they just have an agreement that we will all participate if we're needed, if they're needed, Milford's needed. Anybody in the state of Michigan, if you're part of this program, if we have extra, say, firemen, we can send them up here or there. We actually had that happen in the sheriff's department when that church, the synagogue, they took a couple of our officers from here down there, and I think multiple places did that too. So, because they didn't really know the situation. So it's like you lend them out, and no cost to either community. So that was approved. And then the last thing on our agenda was the consideration and approval recommended repairs of the water tank at the Lyon Township wastewater treatment plant. So we had put in 4 SBRs at the very beginning, and we really only used 3 of them. And now that we have a little more sewage coming, they found a big crack when they drained it down, and we have to get that repaired. So it was quite pricey, but that also got approved because we have to fix that. It's for our sewage treatment plant and our sewer customers. So that was our meeting on Monday. Any questions? You're welcome.
Anything else?
I have one question for Brian. Brian, at the beginning, Stephanie brought up the drain cleanup and the permit they had to have for that, where they took some trees down and some on the airport side. Do you know if that permit was tied directly to the data center being fully approved, or is it just separate permits?
It was separate.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's all. Thank you. Thanks.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Support.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you, everyone.